Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brianna, and today I wanted to do a end of year reading wrap up of 2024. I read so many good books this year and I just wanted to share them. So I'm not going to ramble on too long, so let's get started. So the first book I read in 2024 was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This movie came out last November and I completely loved it so much. The Hunger Games has a very special place in my heart. So when I went and seen this movie, it was so amazing, so good and everything, and I was like, I have to read the book to understand it more. So I bought this and I read it, and you guys, it was just like the movie. They didn't stray too much away from the book in my opinion, but I just loved it so much, and I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. So it helps you understand like the way everything came to be, how the districts are, and I gave this at 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, I started the Chestnut Spring series, and now it is one of my all-time favorite series. I love the small town cowboy ranch romances. They just do something to me. So I read Flawless by Elsie Silver. Like I said, this is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series, and this follows a professional bull rider, and our FMC is his boss's daughter, I think. You guys, just fair warning in this video, I feel like I have such bad memory that when I've read a book so long ago, I tend to like forget some parts about it. But yes, his agent's daughter. And you guys, this is Elsie Silver just has a way of writing her books that makes you grow so attached to her characters, and I love it so much. It has the perfect amount of spice, but not too much. Perfect amount of romance, not too cringy, anything like that. So yeah, I gave this one a 4.75 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. And yeah, this was the first book that, like I said, got me into the cowboy small town ranch series. So yeah, this was the second book I read this year. On to the next book, I read this small novella. It's called Unbreak Me by C.A. Greco. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing her name wrong, but it's part of the Magnolia Falls Ranch series. To be honest, I don't remember too much about this book. 2 out of 5 stars because it wasn't really my favorite. I'm not too sure about this one, but I don't want to bore you guys and read the whole back. I do want to check out more books in this series to see if they get any better, but the next book I read this year was Return to Us by Corinne Michaels. You guys, this book, so good. He is a single dad, if I remember correctly. Yes, a single dad, and our FMC work at the same hotel together. And he's a single dad, which immediately drew me in. I'm a sucker for the single dad romances. So yeah, this book was just so good. I grew attached to the characters. Gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I can't wait to read the rest. I think this is part of a series. Yeah, the Willow Creek Valley series. I'm gonna try and read the rest of the series next year. The next one I read in 2024 was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I'm sorry, guys, if you see me looking over, I wrote my ratings on here because I do have a Goodreads, but it's on my phone, which I'm filming on my phone. So I just wrote them down to remember what I rated them on. So if I'm looking over here every time, I'm just seeing what I rated the books. I rated this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I don't really remember too much about this book. I liked it. I just feel, if I remember correctly, the chapters were so long, and I'm not a huge fan of long chapters. I'll read long chapters if I'm like immediately attracted to the story. But this one, I didn't really, like, I loved reading it. I loved the characters and everything, but I just didn't grow too attached to it. I know she has a sequel out. I haven't read that one, but I don't know if I'm going to. One thing I did love about this book was at every chapter, it had little quotes from different movies. So I like highlighted them, as you could see. So yeah, they quoted from like different romance movies, and I loved that so much. So yeah, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. This next one, you guys. This next one, If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nowlin. This is the sequel to If He Had Been With Me, the first book. And if you've read this book, it is so heartbreaking. It's very, very sad, but it's very, very good. In my opinion, it's just a very heartbreaking romance, and I did cry. But this is the sequel to it, and I think this one, MMC's perspective. So like if you know anything about this book, you know what happens, and it's just very emotional. But I read this one and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I think this book really just gave me a type of closure from the first book, because the first book obviously leads off on an emotional thing, and I think that this book, even though this book was very emotional as well, I feel like it gave me some sort of closure on this story. The next book I read, I continued the Chestnut Spring series. So I read Heartless by Elsie Silver. You guys, this is my opinion. This is one of my favorite books in the series. It's the single dad trope, and our FMC is the nanny. And you guys, I ate this book so much. I remember reading it in like a week. Cade Eaton is one of my top book boyfriends, if you wanted to know. I gave this one a 4.75 out of 5 stars. I don't know what else to say. I really liked this book. And then the next book I read, I continued the Chestnut Spring series, like I said. So I read Powerless by Elsie Silver. This one, it wasn't my favorite. I think, yes, this one was the childhood friends to lovers trope. It's not my favorite trope, but I do enjoy reading it. So yeah, this one I rated a 3 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite, but I still enjoyed reading it, just getting to know these characters and everything, so yeah. And then the next book I read was Mile High by Liz Tom Ford. I personally did not like this book. It was just very hard to get through. I think this is part of the Windy City series. I also just seen mixed reviews about this book. Like, I wasn't the only one that wasn't a fan of this book, but I did hear the rest of the series is really, really good. I just personally did not like this book. I did not like the male main character. He got on my nerves, but I did get through it. I rated this a 3 out of 5 stars. I do think, like, the plot was very, like, I understood the plot. I just didn't connect with the characters. Like I said, the male main character was so annoying, so I didn't really like this one. But yeah, I am gonna try to read the rest of the series and see how I like it. The next book I read was The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin. This book is kind of like a paranormal thriller book, which I've never read paranormal before, so this was my first time reading it. I rated this a 3 out of 5 stars. I do think, from what I remember, it was very interesting. It kind of lost me at some parts, but I still read it. And it's also part of a series, so I do want to read the next book and see. So yeah, it wasn't my favorite, but I did enjoy it, if that makes sense. The next book I read was a new series by Elsie Silver. It's called the Rose Hill series, and this is the first book from it. It's called Wild Love, and I adored this book so much. It also has a single dad trope, but kind of in a not what you think a single dad trope is. If you read the book, then you know. I don't want to give any spoilers, but yeah, it's best friend's little sister trope. So I loved it. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I did enjoy this book. I think the plot was really driven. I enjoyed the characters. I just feel like it lacked in some parts, in my opinion. I just kind of felt off reading in some parts, but I did enjoy it, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I know this series is going to be my next favorite out of hers. I love Elsie Silver's writing. It's so easy to understand. She just has a way of writing her words and her characters that make me attached to them. So yeah, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was the 4th book, I think. Yeah, the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series, which was Reckless by Elsie Silver. It's like a found family series. So if you've read this book, then you know it's like a found family. So this one, our FMC, is the sister of the FMC in the first book, Flawless. So I was so ready to read her book, and also ready to get to her book and read it, because I wanted to know how her story was. So yeah, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. From what I can remember, I did enjoy the plot. It was very interesting. It had me hooked. I was so excited to read Winter's story, and Elsie Silver told it beautifully. So yeah, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, you're probably thinking, Brianna, you read the whole Chestnut Spring series this year. Actually, no, I didn't. I've read all of the Chestnut Spring series except the last one. I was supposed to get to that this year and I never did. So I will be reading the last book of Chestnut Spring series this year though. I can't wait to get to Beau's book. I think it's about Beau. So yeah, I read that, and then after Reckless, I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I've heard so many mixed reviews about this book, but I've seen it all over TikTok when it first came out, like this whole new found family series. And one thing about me, I love found family book series. They just hold a special place in my heart. And I heard this book from TikTok. I heard it was like a Gossip Girl but in England edition in the UK, so I was like, I have to read it. But I wasn't a big fan of Magnolia Parks. It's a very toxic relationship, which I knew going into it, but I didn't know it was like toxic. I just didn't really feel attached to the characters. Now I did hear, I just didn't really feel connected to the story. I didn't feel connected to the characters. The characters kept making me mad with their decisions. So yeah, I rated this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I've been told by a bunch of people to read Daisy Hates because they like Daisy Hates better than Magnolia Parks, but I don't know. So if I should, I'll decide if I want to read Daisy Hates or not. I don't know, but I may. The next book I read is a summer book. I read This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So I did like it, but I can't tell you anything because I did read it this summer, which was like months ago. I feel like I have a very bad memory with books. Even though I liked the book, I'm like, I don't remember some parts of it, so I'm sorry. But it's about Lucy and Felix, and our FMC is a tourist vacation, a beach house, and then our MMC is the local who shows her around. It's like her tour guide. So it's a best friend's younger brother trope. Okay, so our FMC doesn't know he's her best friend's younger brother. So, okay, now I remember. I'm sorry about that. I had to read a little bit, but I enjoyed it. I loved the way, just this book, the way it was set in a beach town. I love summer is my favorite season of all time, even though it's like really hot. I love summer, so I love reading summer books each year. And this one, as I was reading it, I could picture like the whole setting, like the beach, a small town, the cottages, the beach houses, everything. And so yeah, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm gonna start a new stack here because this stack will fall. And this next book I read, I'm so excited for. I read Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I rated it a 5 out of 5 stars, you guys. If you guys didn't know, I'm very picky with my 5 stars. I only give it to books if I really enjoyed the story, it was a page turner for me, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the plot, I was attached to the story, everything like that. And Emily Henry is one of my favorite authors of all time. She has a way of writing her books, and her characters just so good. I don't know, it does something to me every time. So I did give this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved reading this book so much. Yeah, it's about Daphne and Peter and fiancés get together, and then our 2 main characters live together and they strike up a relationship. And I just love this book so much. Like I said, I was attached to the story. I loved the characters, everything like that. So I loved Emily Henry, so I gave this one a 5 out of 5 star rating. Next book I reread We'll Always Have Summer by Jenny Han. Why did I forget the author for a moment? The Summer I Turned Pretty I read for the first time 2 years ago, and I think it was after season 1 came out. I read the book series and I love it so much. And unfortunately we didn't get season 3 this year, so I just reread the 3rd book so I could get ready and remember everything that happened in the 3rd book. So before we get because I think season 3 is coming out next summer, and I'm so excited. So I just wanted to reread this book so I can get ready and remember everything. My mind can be refreshed for the next season. I gave this one the same rating I did when I first read it, a 4 out of 5 stars. I love this series so much. I love Jenny Han's writing. It's just so good. I love Belly and Conrad, and yes, I am Team Conrad. I know. Yes, I know. I am Team Conrad, but I don't care. I love Conrad so much. And this next book I read, My Life with the Walter Boys by Ali Novak. You'll probably know they turned it into a Netflix series. I did watch it, and I think I rewatched it like 3 times. It's really good. In my opinion, it is kind of cringy, but I still like it. I love it. So I decided to get a copy of this and read it and try to like compare it to the show, because I think they're coming out with a season 2. So I wanted to read the book just to see how the book is different from the TV series. Yeah, I rated this a 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't my favorite, but it was just a good like palate cleanser, if that makes sense. Like my mind was just refreshed from it, and I did enjoy reading this book. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. This next book I read is Runaway Love by Melanie Harlow. This has been on my TBR for years, and I've never read it until now. And I went to Barnes & Noble one day, and I seen this special edition of it. And guys, look how cute this is. It has kissy marks on the page. And I didn't know this at the time, but it was signed, which is really, really cool. So yeah, and it also has like a cute map. Look how cute that is. That is so adorable. So I did enjoy this book. I rated it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. It is a single dad, and what got me to read the book is it says, yes, I'm a single dad who needs a nanny for the summer. Those kinds of books get me every time. So yeah, I did read this. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I felt attached to the characters, attached to the story. I think this author wrote this book really, really beautifully, and yeah, so I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, I decided to pick up Girl Abroad by Elle Kennedy. I did read her off-campus series, and I loved it very, very much. I read those like years ago, and I loved it, so I was like, I'm gonna pick this up. It's about a girl who travels to London for abroad, and she is roomed with these 3 boys, and I think it's kind of like a love triangle, I think. Her father is like a retired rock star, so I was like, yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Unfortunately, I didn't enjoy it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy like the plot of her going abroad and studying in London, because one thing about me is I want to travel in the future. So any books that deal with like traveling abroad or like visiting Europe and everything, I'm immediately attached. I just felt this book was just like really, really long. I wasn't really into the book to be interested in reading the long chapters, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. In my opinion, I just felt like the plot wasn't going nowhere, and I really couldn't get into it. This next book I read was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. I read this when this first came out. This is the second book in the Rose Hill series, and I gave this one a 4.75 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this book so much. Ever since these 2 main characters in this book were kind of in the background of the first book, and I was so excited to read their story. And this second book tells their story, and I just love these characters so much. The romance is good. It's a good amount of spice, but not too much. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this story. In this next book I read, I was so excited to get into this series, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I bought this book like a month ago, and then I picked it up like 5 months after I bought it. And I'm so glad I got into this series. I loved it so much. This is a romantasy, so it's a fantasy and a romance put in one, and I'm a sucker for those. Fourth Wing is one of my favorite romantasy series of all time, so I knew I was going to enjoy this. It's enemies to lovers, which is one of my favorite tropes of all time, and you guys, the amount of tension in this book between the characters, they hate each other and then they become lovers, and I'm just a sucker for that so much. And you're kind of iffy about getting into fantasy, I would recommend going into this series, because this series was very easy to understand. It's not a lot of world building. Like, it is world building, but it's easy for you to understand, and it's not a lot of things like thrown at you at once, and plus the characters in it, so good. So yeah, I gave this one a 4.75 out of 5 stars. Love this book so much. The next book I read, I don't have the copy of it, I listened to it on audiobook, was Fall Into You. I can't remember the author's name, I'm so sorry, but I'll have like a picture up here. If I remember correctly, it was like, I read this during the fall time because I wanted a fall cozy romance, and I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It was just it wasn't my favorite book, but I did enjoy reading it. It gave me all the cozy fall vibes, and yeah, it was characters went to the pumpkin patch, they had Thanksgiving together, everything like that. There was some stuff I did not like about this book. I think it was like a best friend's brother, and then just the way the brother was acting in the story just annoyed me so much. So yeah, I gave that one a 3 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was continuing the Powerless series. I read Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second book after Powerless. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. While I did enjoy this book, in my opinion, I think this book was a little bit slower than the first one. The first one was so action-packed and it was like a page-turner for me. But this second one, it does start where the first book left off, like that. But the majority of the plot was one thing, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want to say spoilers, but if you read this and you know, most of the book was just about one plot, and it was kind of boring for me. It was kind of slow, but all in all, I did enjoy this book, and I can't wait for the next one because this one ended off on a cliffhanger as well. So, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. Next book I read, it was coming up on Christmas, so I wanted to read like a cozy Christmas romance. I read There's Something About Mary by Cody Hall. I rated this a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I think this book was really, really good. It is a single dad trope. One of the main reasons why I picked it up. Gave all the Christmas vibes. It's about a tree farm, and just the two main characters hit it off really, really well. They had really good chemistry. Good read to get me ready for Christmas and everything. So I really did enjoy this book. The last book I am currently reading of this year is My December Darling by Lauren Asher. I started reading this book right after I read this book. I'm gonna try and finish it before this year ends, which I think I am, because it's like a novella and I'm almost done with it. But it's a small town Christmas novella, and I read this before Christmas. Again, getting into the Christmas spirit. I didn't have time while I was traveling back home to read this the whole week because I was just spending time with my family and my old friends, so I didn't really get a chance, but I did read a lot of it on the plane and at the airport, and I do think I'm gonna finish it before the year ends because I'm almost done with it. But it's a very cozy romance. I'm just really interested in the story. It is a page turner. I believe I'm gonna finish this before the year ends because I'm addicted to the story and I love it so much. I love the characters. So yeah, I predict my rating is gonna be 4 out of 5 stars. So if the book is continuing the way it is, I will give it a 4 out of 5 stars. So yeah, that is all the books I read in 2024. Thank you so much for watching this video, for deciding to click on my video and watch it. I love reading so much. Reading is one of my top favorite hobbies of all time, and all the books I read this year were really, really good. Yes, I did read some that I didn't enjoy and that I didn't like, but that's a part of the process. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, you can if you want. I would love to have you, and I will see you guys in my next video very, very soon. Bye!